I am Daniel Greenberg, the product manager for Libris Digital Solutions, including Alma Digital, a digital asset management solution fully integrated into Alma. During this difficult period of COVID-19, institutions are facing the challenge whereby patrons and other content consumers cannot access, or at least have limited access to the premises of the institutions, and cannot borrow books, for example, and other types of resources. This is where Alma Digital can extend and enhance their library's offerings of online resources. And using Alma Digital, the patrons do not have any limitation on the actual physical location of the content. And on the other hand, the institutions can fully control through the access right policies who accesses which content and how. So what is Alma Digital? Traditionally, institutions manage multiple solutions for every type of resource that they would have. So that would be one solution for electronic and physical possibly, and a separate solution for digital. Where the logic behind this is that digital content is different in its essence and in the way it's managed. It has different and separate requirements and workflows than other types of resources. But this poses, of course, a challenge in that there are no integrated flows, while the institutions, the digital and the physical or electronic content do relate to the same flows in the actual institution. So this creates a separation which doesn't necessarily reflect the processes at the institution. On the other hand, this also requires having separate resources for managing the different solutions and so on. Alma Digital allows institutions to manage all their resources under a single hood of Alma, and this provides many different flows and many different processes which can run on all the resources. But on the other hand, does provide the full functionality and advanced functionality which is required specifically for digital content. The result of all of this is a single record, a metadata entity which could contain any type of resource type. So the metadata management is agnostic to the type of resource which is contained under that title. And for the end user, there's a similar experience of consuming content on the metadata level and the different details, which some of them you can see here on the slide, regardless of the type of content which is contained under that. So these are just some of the advantages of holding and managing all the different types of resources under a single solution. So from the cost point of view, the advantage is obvious in that there is a single system management. There is a need just for a single staff, which is already familiar with Alma regularly, and there is no need for a learning curve for different types of solutions. In addition, there is a uniform interface for all the content types, which provides a similar user experience for the staff managing the different types of content. The single solution for all the different types of resources also allows to run single flows in Alma for all the regardless of the different types of content, which is the case in many times where the different flows and so on, they are on the metadata level, for example, and not on the inventory level. And then there is no need for separate processes for the different types of resources. Alma and Alma Digital allow the same workflows that run on physical and electronic content to run also on the digital content. And of course, having a single solution means working with a single vendor which is familiar with all the different needs of the institution or the librarian needs. And for many institutions, there is a full integration between the needs of their digital content and of the other types of content. And the Ex Libris support is, of course, familiar with that and aware of that and will provide a solution with full awareness of the holistic needs of the institution. Alma Digital allows institutions to curate the unique content that the campuses and communities produce within the Alma Library Services platform. So the challenge which Alma Digital resolves for the institutions is to provide at the end of the day a similar experience for the end users, for the patrons and for the staff as they would have with physical content. So there are many aspects of consuming physical content and managing it which we take for granted, which we cannot take for granted and for digital content, and requires specialized features and workflows for the digital content. For example, depositing a physical book is a simple process of taking the book and putting it on the shelf. This, of course, is not so simple for digital content because we need to relate to many different challenges that there are and characteristics of digital content. For example, uploading a bulk set of digital files. Many of them could be very large files of close to a terabyte per file, for example, and you want to be able to do this in a timely manner. This requires special technology for uploading the content without interfering with the performance of the rest of the solution. In addition, the data which is provided when a consumer opens a book, for example, then there is information which is taken for granted that you see when you open a book, for example, the author, the date, the publishing date, and other information. And this needs to be specially managed for digital content. We need to be able to provide all the metadata which is required side by side with the digital content, which doesn't necessarily provide that content, that data, for example, images and photos and so on. An additional challenge which exists specifically for digital content is data safeguarding. So while for a book we can just put it on the shelf and it is safe there, this is not the case for digital content, which needs to be safeguarded. And if it's not provided with the functionality and the technology in order to safeguard the content, the files will not be accessible in several years from now on for many different reasons of corruption or formats which are not supported and so on. From this point of view, Alma Digital provides a full data safeguarding infrastructure for the digital files. Alma Digital is an end-to-end digital asset management system starting from the deposit of the content. The page which you see in front of you is the deposit form, which is fully configurable by the staff and provided to any patrons or other content producers who would like to upload content into Alma Digital. The form here is fully configurable, so the staff can define exactly which fields need to be populated, which fields are mandatory, and so on. There is full control over the method of populating the fields. So it could be a text field, it could be a date picker, it could be a combo box or a radio buttons, and so on and so forth. All of these fully configurable by the staff in the backend. And there is also full control over the size of the files which are uploaded for a specific content producer. There is full control over which formats of files can be uploaded, and so on and so forth. This page can also be fully customized using Primo Studio infrastructure. And this means that both the logos and all the different flavors of the UI can be fully customized by uploading a package from Primo Studio into the backend. On the other hand, there are many different flows for the staff to upload bulk content. You can see here a list of the different formats of the metadata which can be uploaded together with the files: CSV, XML, Excel, Mark binary. Content can either be deposited on behalf of a patron or simply deposited directly by the staff. In both cases, the form of the metadata is configurable and the backend administrator can define exactly which fields need to be populated by the depositor of the content. On the other side of Alma Digital Asset Management System, there is the delivery control of the content. This allows the staff to define exactly which service renders which contents. You might have, for example, high-resolution images, as we can see here. And this could be either TIFF files or JPEG 2000 or other advanced formats. All of these can be rendered by the embedded universal viewer, which is based on the IIIF framework. This allows zooming in and extracting higher resolution segments from inside the images. On the other hand, the repository of the institutions could include books, digitized books. And here we have the Internet Archive book reader, which is also based on the IIIF framework and provides a similar user experience as reading a book, where you can turn pages and you can also search for words and any text inside the actual book in case the transcription is attached to the actual files. And then there is the Alma viewer, which is the native viewer developed inside the system and basically utilizes all the HTML5 capabilities of rendering all the different types of content. So PDFs, images, audio, visual, any type of content can be rendered through the viewer, and any file or format which cannot be rendered by the browser is then offered for download. This viewer, similarly to the patron deposit form, is fully customizable through Primo Studio. All the different elements here on the screen are also fully customizable. For example, the descriptive information on the right pane is fully configurable to define exactly which metadata is delivered to the end user. Another important aspect of Alma Digital is the flexible cataloging and selecting the ability to select a metadata schema which most fits the digital content which is stored in the repository. So while Mark is the standard for other types of resources, another challenge for digital content is the need to provide other metadata schemas that are more simplified. And that is what the Library of Congress has produced, several metadata schemas which are designated at the more simplified cataloging of digital content. So one of those would be Dublin Core, which is in our case an extendable Dublin Core where we provide multiple Dublin Core application profiles. This basically means that institutions can catalog beyond the Dublin Core. Basic elements can also catalog and index local fields, which will be indexed and published. In addition, one of these application profiles are designated at ETDs, electronic theses and dissertations. This was developed for a customer who migrated the thesis and dissertations over to Alma Digital, and we created a designated application profile to describe degrees and so on, which are specifically related to digital content. In addition, we support mods, which is also another metadata schema which has been developed by the Library of Congress, which from the complexity point of view is somewhere in between Dublin Core and MARC and is regularly used for digital content. So analytics is a crucial aspect of digital content, similarly to any other type of resource. So we provide analytics on the digital inventory, which provides full details and information about the profile of the data which institutions hold. And on the other hand, there are detailed analytics on the digital usage, which provides information on which content is accessed, how frequently, which is of course very important information for the institutions to make decisions, learned decisions on which content needs to be exposed more or exposed less, and so on. One of the most crucial aspects of managing digital content is the need to safeguard the content and to guarantee that this content will not be corrupted and will be accessible also in many years from now. Alma Digital stores this file on Amazon Web Services and AWS S3 storage, which provides 99.999 and so on percent availability of the content. It creates multiple copies of the content distributed over geographic locations. There is a self-healing mechanism whereby there are integrity checks which are run on the content periodically, and once a corruption is identified in one of the copies, then it is replaced with one of the healthy copies, and many other services which are provided as part of this state-of-the-art digital content storage solution. Alma Digital provides advanced functionality for delivering the digital content, but in the context of the discovery solution of Primo or Primo VE. So the end game is that the patron or the researcher, whoever's accessing this content, which could also be the public, will have a streamlined experience searching for the content, discovering it in Primo, and then eventually clicking on the link and viewing the actual files. The emphasis that we put in Alma Digital over the streamlining of this process provides a much better experience for the patrons and the consumers of the content from the moment they access the discovery system until they actually see the files. So there is uniform management of the metadata, which is both displayed in the full display of Primo and in the actual viewer side by side with the files. So there's no need to manage both displays separately. We have recently added also quick access to the digital content immediately in the full record display of Primo, which doesn't require an additional click in order to reach the actual files. We've provided a service which is based on an Amazon service for migrating audio and video files over to streaming HLS formats, which allows institutions and patrons to instantly consume the videos, even if they are very large ones. We have also added a lot of functionality for customizing the collection discoveries. So of course, when we're talking about collections, this is all about showcasing the special collections of institutions. And as much as it's important to view the actual digital files in a specific way, there is also a need to expose the special collections in a very nice and attractive way. And this is done by full customization of the collection lobby in Primo VE. Alma Digital provides multiple access right policies, which allow the institutions to control who accesses the content. So this could be based on an IP range, on user groups. There is also an ability of controlling the number of concurrent users who can access specific content, and many more access right policies. Each one of these access right policies can also be associated with a copyright boilerplate, which is presented to the end user. So what you can see here is basically the end game of the alignment that we have done with between the discovery and the delivery of the digital content. So what we can see here is the full record of Primo already displaying the digital files and all the content under the digital representation. And there is no need to then select and click on the actual link to the files. There is an option to navigate between the files and display any type of format which is supported by the browser. So as you can see here, one or two of the examples. On the right, there is a JPEG file. On the left, there is an audio file, but of course also videos and many other types of content can be produced already in the full record display. One of the challenges of institutions, and perhaps a psychological block for moving over to a new digital asset management system, is the headache of migrating the content from the legacy system over to the new system. So for this, we have been working intensely in the last year over producing out-of-the-box tools and utilities for migrating content and shortening the time for institutions to migrate their content over to Alma Digital. You can see here some of the examples of the solutions out there which we have worked with, and we have already migrated customers from those solutions over to Alma Digital. For some of them, we already have kits which are available and can be run together with the professional services in order to migrate the content over to Alma Digital. Others are being finalized these days and would eventually allow a very short process with the reduced resources from the institutions in order to migrate the content over to Alma Digital. These are some of the examples of the out-of-the-box jobs which are already inside Alma for migrating content over to the digital representations. One of them is the utility to migrate simple objects over from remote systems. Another is to generate representations from links in the existing BIB records in Alma. There is a collection import job and many others. Coming up, this is just a glimpse into one of the features which are coming up. This is an exciting feature whereby institutions will be able to share their content with the ProQuest dissertations and thesis database. So there will be two possible flows. One would be submitting in the thesis and dissertations into ETD admin. ETD admin will then publish one copy to PQDT and another copy directly into Alma Digital. The alternative flow would be to deposit the content regularly according to one of the flows that we saw earlier on into Alma Digital, and Alma Digital will then include a publishing profile for publishing content to PQDT, which will then maintain its own copy of the digital content. We will also be introducing many enhancements and improvements to the deposit profile and the deposit forms, providing the staff and the institutions with full control over the quality of the data and the metadata of the digital repository. So this would include control over which formats are deposited, number of files, size, and so on. The institutions will be able to provide the end users, the patrons, with multiple access rights, where they can select which access right will be associated with the content which is being deposited. The deposit form will be fully configurable, so it can contain all the different types of content population which you can see here, date picker, repeatable fields, and so on. Thank you very much. For any questions, please feel free to send an email to the email which you can see here on the last slide. Thank you and stay well.